Another in amongst all this, another handy thing I found was the Bitmap Factory Options class, which has an int sample size property. Now, the reason I found it was because the recycle still didn't help me, because originally what I was doing was following along some code that I found, I think in one of the sample apps on the Android developer site, which showed you to, basically when you've got a list view, stuff a bunch of your bitmaps in there and have create some image views, put them in the list view, and have the image view scale the bitmap that you put in there. Now that's probably good if you're scaling, say, a 100 by 100 bitmap down to, say, 25 by 25 to make a thumbnail. Well, the original bitmap is not that big, so it's not taking up that much memory. If you have 1.4 meg original images that map to a 1.4 meg bitmap, they're not that big as I still in this PNG, but that's how big they are compressed to. You stuff them into list views and have the list view scale them. That's going to be not so good because I was displaying, I think, 9 or 12 thumbnails in my app at one time. Yeah, that's enough to fill up the heap on a 2.1 device and run out of memory. So what in sample size is all about is that you basically request that a bitmap be opened, but it's not read in at its original size, it's scaled as it's read in. So in this case, I think I've set mine to a scale factor of 4. There's actually sample code which, using another Bitmap Factory Options property, which specifies that rather than reading in the bitmap, you just want to read in the metadata to determine the dimensions of the bitmap. There's sample code out on the net which shows you how to do that. So you want to find out how big the bitmap is, and then based on some business rules, you say, I want to scale it by 4, or I want to scale it by X. So that, rather than having a hard code scaling factor like I do, you actually do it based on your image size. So in this way, what you do is you actually create your image views in your list view at the right size to begin with, and as small as they need to be, rather than having the image views do the scaling. Again, I don't know if anyone's probably spent enough coding list views with image views, and this is probably old hat, but again, this was something that as a newcomer, I did trip over and was happy to found it and made good use of it. So basically apart from the bits of code that I've shared with you, the lessons that I've learned is that, yeah, those sites are really your friend, especially when you're starting out. I was actually amazed like how many times when I did a Google search for a particular term that I was looking for, set of terms I was looking for, Stack Overflow was sometimes not the first hit, because there's apparently copycat Stack Overflow sites. I don't know if you've come across them. We simply suck in Stack Overflow's content and put lots of ads around it. And somehow they're all in Google because sometimes they're ahead of the same page of the original page in Stack Overflow. But yeah, pretty much a lot of the time I found that Stack Overflow, someone already answering the question that I had in mind. So I've had an account on that for a while, so now I think I have to give back a bit and try and look out for more questions that I can help people with. Yeah, that's a short cut here off of the developer.android.com site. The Google documentation is really good. Like the recycle method, for instance, is well documented because it's basically a sentence, 3-line sentence that says what it does, but there's no bold red letters saying, unless you're dealing with teeny-weeny bitmaps, call this on all the time, because otherwise you'll run out of pitch space. So it does document what the method does, but it doesn't really emphasize it. So it's a good place to go when you know what you're looking for, but it's not, I found, the best place to go to start with if you don't know what you're doing when you don't know what you're looking for. And I think that's about it. I've got a few references. My app is finally in the app market. I have to be honest, I do know that there's still a much smaller memory leak, but there's still a memory leak. But now I can pretty much get bored of trying to cause it to run out of memory rather than it just happening in the first 10 to 20 seconds of using it. And I've also published, because it's kind of like my apprentice app where I treat it as a learning experience on writing Android apps. I'll put the GitHub code up there. warts and all. Sorry, put the code up on GitHub, warts and all for people to have a look at if they're interested. And one last thing is that Roman Guy seems to be the head knower of all things graphics on the Android team, so I highly recommend reading his blog, and also, for instance, he and another colleague did a really useful talk about list views and memory management in the last Google I/O. That's well worth watching if you've got a spare hour. And that's all that I had, so if there's any questions, I'm going to answer them. Cool.
Is it free?
Almost.
Have you had much experience with animation views?
No, probably thankfully not yet.
So I jumped into that and found out that, yeah, there's all of that, this sort of knowledge that you can find out, but animation views, I think that's the naming convention they use for it, don't do any of that stuff. They don't actually recycle their own bitmaps. So you can quite easily
post something either on the mailing list or Stack Overflow about animation in gallery view.
Did I? No.
Okay.
Such a gallery.
You're not the one guy.
I've seen it while I was doing it.
Yeah, but it's a definite problem. It's interesting, and so at Google Developer Labs in Sydney last year, I asked that some Google Chinese reps were there talking about these things, and I was sort of asking about this problem. You know, lots of people have been talking about it for single bitmap, but not for animation. So, and he just said, do it in C. So, I really like that answer.
That's a bit sad. Like, I've been a Java programmer, but pretty much the whole last 10 years, apart from a few side jobs. So that's a bit sad to hear, because like I keep, every time I meet a C++ developer, I keep going on to them about how good Java's become. It used to be like. Like, I don't know why. Like, for instance, I don't know specifically, I couldn't find the reason, or anyone's even Roman Guy saying why, up until version 3, they decided that the memory had to be allocated natively rather than just within the Delta VM for bitmaps. Like, I guess it's some kind of performance issue. They didn't do it because they felt like it, but I haven't been able to find a specific reason why. So apparently, whatever the change they made in Honeycomb, that's maybe Honeycomb's now in a better state where they can trust more stuff in the Java code rather than just saying, oh, we'll do it in C or C++. But actually, I don't want to steal Nick's thunder, but like one thing I did find, yeah, it's worth knowing about list views is that views do get recycled, and it makes a huge performance difference to use that. But I was actually thinking about using the new gallery view, and I did come across online someone saying that they found that its views don't get recycled. So it's sort of the latest types of views seems to be going backwards, and I don't know how they get its performance decent, but maybe it's another one of those little inside secrets that you have to search high and low to find out.
Well, if anyone has a cousin who works on Android at Google, you know, we can give us, inside knowledge once in a while.
Yeah,
A total Android movie question, but couldn't you just use the PNG instead of your BMP?
No, the thing is that I don't use bitmaps. Like when I save my file, when I save the bitmap out, I store it as a PNG. But the thing is, as far as I know, anyway, I haven't been corrected, but as far as I know, when say you have an image view, you have to give it a bitmap object. So unfortunately what happens is that PNG, for instance, gets uncompressed into a raw bitmap in memory to be then used by wherever you're using it, like say it's a background, or in my case, as an image view inside my list views.
Bitmap doesn't underneath the BMP, like JPEG and PNG, and they're all bitmap as well. So it's more about bitmap versus vector graphics.
Yeah. I suspect all the low-level code uses just raw bitmaps in memory.
Question 2, why not vector graphics?
That's a very good question. That's a much better question. To be honest, is because I took the path of least resistance. And I thought this was going to be pretty much a 1 to 2 day app. That was a month ago. So, yes, one one of the things I'd like to do is, for instance, to change at least my drawing routines. Even if I don't end up saving my images, say, as SVG files, if I still want my drawing. Currently my drawing operations are all bitmap drawing operations, but there's no reason why they can't be vector graphic operating.
Because you're listening to
paths.
user events anyway, so you have to start point and end point.
Yes. And I actually do, like, well, when I do like the drawing, I actually do draw paths.
Yes.
So it's probably, I am probably doing it a rather naive way, but I basically did that the simplest way possible at the very start when I started writing the code. I haven't revisited it since. Probably just spent a lot of time looking at all this.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you very much.